Right. So three of those films I'm just gonna run through kind of gauntlet style, right? That
Sure.
would be The Assistant, American Utopia, and His
Okay.
House, right? Let me not waste any time. Let me just jump into the first film that would be The Assistant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this came out, it had its premiere, sorry, at the Telluride Film Festival on August 30th of last year, right? And since it was released theatrically January 31st of this year, it has received, sorry, nothing but praise.
Right.
I've been looking at best of the year lists, and everyone I've found always have this movie here. So I'm like, all right, well, I have to see what the big deal is, right?
Right.
So, in a nutshell, it is written, directed, produced, and edited by Kitty Green, right? I'm not familiar with her work at all. She's an Australian filmmaker.
Right.
So it stars Julia Garner, who Ozark fans would recognize her from, but I have never watched Ozark yet. I haven't jumped
Right.
on that bandwagon as yet, so I hopefully when I do, I'll be like, all right, yeah, you that chick from this movie, right?
Right.
So what is about? It's essentially a drama, right? But kind of oddly, people sort of market it as a or label it as a thriller, even though it isn't, but it kind of is, right? But in a nutshell, it involves the character of Jean, right? And it's basically just the day, just a work day that we see through her perspective, right? She's a junior assistant. She's working at this film production company in New York, right? She's
Right.
been there for like a few weeks actually, right? But we just seeing how her day to day goes, right? And she's reserved. She's to herself. There are few female workers there, more higher ups, but you see them off and on. But she's mostly there with some guys who just like check on scripts and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
And early on, you see like she's doing like these menial tasks, like she's printing out headshots, so checking to make sure that the scripts themselves are stapled properly, or even as far as washing dishes and cleaning up after meetings and all that kind of stuff, right? And you're there like, okay, well, this is what, like, clearly this is not what she signed up for, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's film, right? It's Hollywood, right? It's okay if you start from the bottom, right? But oh gosh, man, you gotta be clean up after people that that's how you start.
Yeah.
But what the show really centers on is her reaction, basically, or lack thereof, to her surroundings, to her workplace itself, right? So the big threat, even though we don't see this person, is her boss, right?
Okay.
The boss calls her up ever so often every time she makes a mistake. And I mean, it's not even anything serious or whatnot, right? Just kind of little things that, it's like, all right, I make a call, whatever, don't be so harsh on me. And he goes in hard on her, you know what I mean? He's vulgar to her, kind of demeans and all that kind of stuff. There's
Right.
even one really cringe-worthy scene where he asks her basically to send him an apology email. I'm
Wait. So
like,
you
what?
never see him though. It's just
You,
stuff.
you, you never see me. Just hear his
Right.
voice,
Okay.
right?
Just
Yeah,
calls on. Right. Okay.
right. His wife would show up. There's a scene where his wife shows up. His daughter shows up with a babysitter there. But
Right.
basically, what the show is hinting at, right? Even well, sorry, it took me a while to pick up on, is that various women, mostly coming in for interviews and whatnot, wind up at the boss's office,
Right.
and they kind of reveal, like, you kind of see it through the reactions of the guys involved. They will kind of laugh and snicker and listen to them on the phone and whatnot. Yeah, he's having sex with them basically, right?
Right.
Behind
Right.
closed doors. The wife picks up on it, and she's always calling the office and saying, where's my husband? I've been
Right.
trying to call him, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff, right? But she knows what's going on, and she wants to more or less kind of do something, but she can't, right? Because she knows she just wants to stay focused on the job. And things kind of change where a new assistant comes in to work, right?
Right.
But she feels worried at what might happen to her. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's really what it is. It's just her kind of trying to stick to what it is she's doing while all this external stuff going on around her, right? I'm making it sound simple, but really it goes way deeper than that, right? So just
Right.
to
Right.
jump
Right.
into the review quickly, so what so actually, this show was inspired, believe it or not, by Harvey Weinstein.
Of course.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, yes.
Big
This,
surprise.
in a way, is kind of like a reference slash shot taken at,
Right.
Harvey and the bullshit there. That's really
Right. So
what
the,
it
the
is.
idea the idea is just from a perspective where they frame it, outside of the framework of him.
That's
So
right.
you
Yeah.
you kind of had a piece, and yeah, actually that's actually a pretty interesting take in the sense of Weinstein, why get away with bullshit for so long is because of the
Yeah.
level of power and is right from the whole thing. Yeah, yeah. So
Right, right, right. And you see that though. Even though like for me, going in blind, it took me a while to pick up on it, but I'll explain why
right,
in a bit. But
right,
yeah, you really, because you know what I mean, that what I love about the show here is that it doesn't come off in your typical Hollywood style. Like this is not Bombshell, for example, where okay, you have like Margot Robbie's character who is, being, visualized sexually in one scene, right? And
right,
she's trying to keep it on the low. But you have Kate McKinnon's character who's trying to tell her, you know what I mean, like you need to kind of step up or move away or stuff like that. Like this, like
right, right,
it's not like she has other co-workers, female co-workers who could come and tell her, hey, you know what I mean, get out of this job, you could do better, blah 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 blah, right? She has to
right,
kind of keep this on the low. She has to kind of move normally, even though she feels threatened, right? Even the high ups themselves, the female high ups, they just kind of like fed up of it. It's just like whatever,
right.
but
But
you just
they
really
can't do
see
anything about
the
it.
effect
Right.
exactly,
But
and that's
that's
what the
thing.
show really frames her.
That's a quick mention. That's
Uh-huh.
the interesting thing about the whole ordeal with Weinstein is that eventually he was well overrun by um female CEOs or somebody along the lines of that. Now. So that's interesting how you play it in that way. Now.
Exactly, exactly, yeah. So,
Yeah.
right. So, just to get the gripe out of the way, I did feel like the show did take a long while to get to what it was getting at, the point it was getting at. Sorry, because it moves at a slow pace, not too
Right.
slow, but for its 90-minute run, yeah, it does move slow. But the
Right.
idea is that you're supposed to feel the sort of monotony of things. You know what I mean? Like how she's doing this, but it seems like time is just stopped and things not really going anywhere, right?
Right.
It feels busy and everybody else seems to be having fun, but she's going out and ordering coffees, like buying coffees for everybody else, and you know what I mean, just doing all these menial jobs that yeah, that kind of thing. What I love about the show also too is how it frames it. So it's not like oh, it's about the bad boss, but it's really about it could really kind of compare to like yeah, like if you were working in a job Jen, and you had to do stuff for other people, like you're the intern there, so you had to
Right.
just do stuff for other people because you're the intern, right? So I love how relatable it is, right? And Julia Garner herself, I thought that she was great as Jane.
Right.
How reserved she was. At first, I was like, you know what, see something, and she does see something at times. Like I thought she would fight back or whatnot, but it's not that type of film. It's not that type of Hollywood film where it ends with the, hero rising up and stopping
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
man, quote unquote, right? It's just putting you into her mind space, right?
Right.
And that's what it is. So for some people, like if you're going expecting some thriller, it's not really. It's just a drama. And if I just have another gripe too, is okay. So not saying that she have to do some kind of big bold thing to stop this guy from doing what
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
she's doing, but at the same time, you're just kind of wishing that she at least kind of one ups him in some way. You know what I mean? But
Nah. Yeah. Right.
that's
Yeah.
not what
Exactly.
they're going for. It's just a day in her life. This is what she has to deal with, and spoil it. They just kind of leave it open where you don't know what's gonna happen next for her. But
Right.
yeah, this is her reality, and she could choose what she wants out of it, right? The supporting cast is great as well, but it's all about Julia, and I thought that Julia really shone in this, right? And even though yes, it does take a while to get to its point, you really do like in my case, I came out really feeling rather sorry for her. You know what I mean? Like I said,
Yeah.
I just wish that she could have just done a little something so she could have just walk out to the show with a little smile on her face and a little confidence. But no, it's just nah. This is what she had to deal with, right? I will say though, it's not gonna be for everyone, mainly because of the pace and also, um, I don't know, like it is. I would say it is centered. It is women will really appreciate this, right? Guys will appreciate it in terms of the craft and the acting involved, but this will resonate more with women, you know what I mean? Which is fine, you know what I mean? I mean
Yeah.
that's what they're going for. So for me, like I got everything that was going on, but if I was a woman, I'd be like, yeah, boy, you know what I mean? I could relate to this, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, boy, you know what I mean? Because it is very much Me Too, right? It is very
Right.
much that.
Right. Right.
So honestly, I can't, you know, have this film up on this pedestal like everybody else does. But it is
Right.
still a very, very, very well made film. Once again, it's not going to be for everyone because of the pace and also because of the subject matter and how slow things feel. But there is really a lot going on, a lot internally. And once you get into that, once it locks in, that's when you really feel the just the story. So, rating wise, I'm gonna give this a strong 4 out of 5, man.
Right.
Maybe with a
Right.
few more viewings, I might give it a 4.5. But yeah, the praise is deserved as far as best of the years. It is very different, I would say, as far as your mainstream Hollywood movies go. But I would say, yeah, give it a look. If this topic isn't your cup of tea, or you just want to have a show where things happen, quote unquote, and the hero rises and does something, visually to stand up against this person. It's not that type of person. It's supposed to it puts you in this character's shoes basically for a day, and that's pretty much what it is, right? But it
Right.
does it so well, so effectively. So yeah, if you're curious, I highly recommend checking out The Assistant. I really have a feeling that if I watch it over again, because like I say, I went in blind, I didn't know what was going on. But if I go in again and just kind of take in everything that's going on, I could see it making it to my top 20. I can't really say right now. If anything, it might be an honorable mention. But yeah, it does deserve the best of 2020, title that it currently has.
Okay. Yeah.
Speaking of that, now we're going to get to a show that I don't know how this got under my radar because it's from a boy Spike Lee, American Utopia.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a concert film actually. It is a
Okay.
live
Right.
recording
That's all.
of a Broadway performance basically. So it's from David Byrne, who is a British American singer, songwriter, musician, all the works. And he was a former member of the art rock group called Talking Heads.
Okay.
Now, I've always heard of the band, but I've never I've like if you just tell me Talking Heads, the one thing I'll just remember is another concert film now called Stop Making Sense. This came out in 1984. It was directed by Jonathan Demme. Um, People actually revere it as one of the greatest concert films of all time. I have yet to see it, right?
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's just essentially about the band doing their covers, doing their album. Oh, sorry, doing their songs and whatnot. But it's the way how they perform, the way how they dress, the mannerisms and all that, and it carries across here because when it comes to his performances, David Byrne has a quirky way of doing things, right? Of you know of what's the word I'm looking for? Of presenting himself on stage, right? So it's basically him and this 12 member band, right? So it involves, backup singers, guys on bass, I mean, drums and whatnot. And they all dress in like this gray work clothes, basically, right? And they all barefoot. And it kind of fits too because, the background itself is gray. There's like this sort of I forget what you call it, like these beads that more or less fill in the background of the stage itself. So characters kind of
Right.
come in and out of that, right? But yeah, just the aesthetic of it is, just this drab gray color, right? And they dress appropriately. And the reason behind that now is because, in the performance itself, they utilize a lot of, light, right? So the way how they shine light in certain spots, in certain areas of the performances,
Right.
yeah, and just the shadows that are cast. I mean, it just adds to the overall feel of it. But I was watching this thread. I was like, all right, I didn't even know Spike Lee did this. I didn't even know this movie exists. It came out on HBO Max a couple of months ago, actually, and I was
There's no. Here's the thing.
yeah, I was like, it feels like something that I would have known about because I mean, it's Spike
Right.
Lee shit. So I don't
Yeah.
know
Well,
how
I don't
this
know.
pass underneath my radar.
It's sung it all sung and familiar because the thing is, I don't follow Spike Lee on social media, so it would have passed me. But something like this would have come up in my usual circles.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I don't know. It's sung and real familiar because you mention it and you keep talking about it. And it's like I swear I watched this, you know. I swear I watched this at some time, but like it wasn't
I
for
would be
some reason.
so happy if you did, but maybe when I
Okay.
talk about it, it should,
But for some reason, I just completely memory hold this. So it was during some a week I was busy, so it was like, all right, well, there's a thing, and I see Spike Lee name on it, but I think I probably dismissed it because I thought he just produced it, so I don't know. Whatever.
Okay, okay, okay. But
Right. Go ahead now.
actually not surprised by this, right? Because sorry, because I'm not familiar with David Byrne's work
Right.
or the Talking Heads. The question that was just lingering when I watched this, right, was why would Spike Lee be involved in this, right? That's the
Right.
question. So, what American Utopia is about, right? It is actually a studio album that David Byrne released in 2018, right? And it's basically this art pop slash art rock album thing, right? It's not a concept album as such, but it's more
Right.
like his view on his quirky kind of offbeat look at the everyday man in America, right? You know what I mean? What they have to do to survive, and kind of just kind of powering through all the bullshit and all the negativity, and just making
Yeah.
the most of the situation, right? And that's what it is about. And one thing about this guy here is that he uses, well, all right. So there's a moment where he references this Dada artist, right? I forgot the
Right.
guy's name, but basically, I think he was is some piece that he put out in the 30s. Basically, him just talking gibberish, like nonsense. Now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's saying that he's talking
Right.
nonsense to kind of express the nonsense going on in society now. So the
Right.
way
Right.
how
Right. Right.
he
Yeah.
articulates
That was
things
kind
is
of the whole.
quite simple now.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
That
go
was
on, go on,
kind
go
of
on.
the whole point. Yeah. No, that was kind of the whole point of Dadaism. It's like it was
Right.
just, oh, all this crazy shit going on. I think Dadaism come out right after World War One now, so it's like, oh yeah, well,
Right. Okay, he did
yeah.
mention this was the during the rise of the Nazis and all that kind of stuff. He
Right.
gave
Right. Yeah.
a little history lesson there, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way how his songs are, they come off simple, come off a light. Sometimes he will just use like these weird references and stuff like that. Like I think like the opening song involves the brain and connections and whatnot. But he makes a
Right. Right.
very good point at the beginning and the end, saying that maybe you could tell me if you knew about this or if you heard it somewhere if it's bullshit. Essentially saying that when you're young, when you grow up now, when you're a baby, you know what I mean, your brain has all these neurons and connections, but the older you get, these connections more or less get cut off. So the
Okay.
question is whether you become, less smart as you get older, you know what I mean, or not. You know what I mean? So it's
Okay.
that kind of thing. I know
Yeah.
it sounds weird, but it's
Nah,
kind of
I
kind of
think
profound.
guys. No, the only thing it's supposed to be more to do with sense data. So I think babies have a kind of general synesthesia when they're young. That is why we can't remember much as a child because we have no clear distinction of sense data, you know, like
Right.
hearing and yeah. From what I
Yeah.
understand, that seems to be the case for young children, very young children. However,
Yeah, not saying that David was talking crap, but I just
well,
paraphrase.
whatever. I mean, is you know again, it's a big deep like scientific thing, but art people don't have to like make a case for that anyway. So it's like whatever, good enough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. So he
right,
just kind of uses that to talk about, well, basically how we deal with everyday life, right?
right,
There's
right.
one song involving, television and how we get so wrapped up in television, you know what I mean, both but as a necessary and unnecessary escape from society, right?
Right.
I'm not gonna bring up, song titles as yet. Well, there's only like one song that I know. Well, two songs actually I'm just gonna bring up actually, right? So the one song that I do know from Talking Heads is "Once in a Lifetime." I've
Right.
actually heard this song so much times. It's one of the best songs of the '80s, but I never knew it was that band that did
Right.
it. So yeah, in this performance here, he actually does a rendition of it, and it works, right? You know what I mean? It feels relevant, you know what I mean, to this day, even though yes, for the '80s synths and all that kind of stuff, it still feels relevant. Um, well, what dig about his music is that it's not like it's not Devo, like it's not like this kind of nerdy kind of rock pop kind of thing, but it has that kind of slight nerdiness to it. Like once again, you know what I mean? It's art rock, or I don't know, we call it backpack rock or backpack pop or something like that. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
something that's too out there, man. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? This is just for this clique here who reads a lot and thinks a lot about the world. It has that kind of feel to it, right? One thing that really surprised me here is that well, the album itself is pretty short, right? But because this movie clocks in at like about an hour and 50 minutes, he incorporates songs that he did for other albums, right? So like that same song "Once in a Lifetime" is there. He also does this song from Wigil, Janelle Monáe called "Hell You Tom Bout," right? Which
Okay.
was from the Electric Lady.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So in that, well, he basically was saying, he he actually spoke to her and he was like, okay, I saw you perform the song at this rally. I would like to use this for my show. And she was like, yeah, cool,
Right,
what I mean?
right.
And he does it justice. And here is where you get to see the Spike Lee isms. Because I was like, I'm not seeing these Spike Lee isms. What are these Spike Lee isms?
Yeah,
So because it's all about, well, fallen African Americans, what I mean, who lost their lives to violence and stuff like that. You have like George Floyd, what I mean, you have like just different people, well, sorry, I should say portraits being held up by a relative of the person who died, right? And you would just see like to the side, the person's name, born, death, all that kind of stuff, right? And I was like, yeah, this is what I was wanted to see. You know what I mean? That just that moment where the film kind of stops while the music is playing to kind of hit you at this point, right?
right.
And it's like the one true moment where it's like, okay, this is about our times. Well, this is about the the African American struggle, basically, right? But as a whole, it's just really about, yeah, just life in general, right? Like the shit that we have to deal with right now. And it's kind of funny too that this, I believe this was recorded in 2019, right? 'Cause the album came out in 2018, and then he did this Broadway show for it. I think from 2018 to about 2019. But
Correct.
it's clear that they filmed this and then put it together, now, right?
Yeah,
So the best way to really sum it up is it's kind of like his take on what's going on. Well, sort of an unconscious take of what's going on, or unintentional take on what's going on in 2020. You know what I mean? What
right.
we have dealt with over the past 11 months. And he's just kind of presented not in this bleak, hopeless way, even though there is, a bit of darkness in it, but sort of, you know what? It's kind of weird. It's kind of nonsensical. It's kind of silly, but I could see the hope in it somehow. So I'm kind of optimistic. You know what I mean? Like I may come off kind of weird with my pantsuit on and barefoot or whatnot, and the kind of lyrics I spit in, but I'm kind of hopeful. You know what I mean? And he's
Yeah,
also aware of what's going on around him, which is what I really dug about the performance. So speaking about of the performance wise, though, I thought that everybody killed it. Um, it's not like Hamilton, for example, where you have like yes, you have a bunch of cameras about, but it's not like there's this literal narrative that's going on. It's a concert film, right? So it's
yeah,
just song being played, you see the audience clapping and cheering, blah blah blah. That's really what it is, right? So it's not like visually, sorry, directing wise, Spike Lee does all these incredible things. But I will give him credit. He does put you in the middle of the show. So I would say, like, if you are a real fan of Talking Heads and David Byrne, you'll enjoy every song. For me, I was just like, okay,
yeah,
I'm getting into it. I'm getting into it. Like, I wish going in and knew who this guy was, or I'd be like, oh, okay, that song, that song, that song. I know he's a legend, but I just don't know about his music, right? I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, the performances are great. I mean, David Byrne, who is pretty old right now,
yeah.
he could still command the stage, so he could still sing. He does a little weird little robotic dances ever so often. The other members of the band, they complement him very well. And what's really cool too is that it's like wireless instruments that they're using, right?
Right,
Which
right,
works because it doesn't keep them to the back of the stage, right? They
right,
follow him, they
right. They could
work
do a
their
lot of
way
things. Yeah.
into the performance and it works, right?
Right. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So everybody comes in and do the it's a it's a collective basically. It feels like a collective just performing for this audience here. And yeah, that's really what American Utopia is. It's just this much lauded performance being filmed by Spike Lee, and that's it. But he
Okay.
just managed to find a way to make it feel relevant today, which I feel is the reason why it came out in 2020 and not 2019. Because this
Right.
could have just come out then and be like, yeah, what I mean, the show that you've been hearing about here comes out today. So it's kind of like in a way like how Hamilton came out this year when it could have come out
Right.
years ago,
Right.
like
Right.
that. But
Okay.
this last reference to Hamilton again to Reaton. But I still feel, Hamilton is admittedly the better film because of just the scope of it, just because of how,
Right.
it was just so well put together, right? And I don't just talk about the guy, the performance on stage, but just where the camera was framed, you know what I mean? And just the movement of everything on stage. Here is just a concert performance. So if you go in expecting Hamilton, you're not gonna get Hamilton. It's not that. It's just a performance from this guy who's weird, but he's good weird, right? And he makes good
Right.
weird music. That's what it is. So rating wise, I'm gonna give this a strong 4 out of 5, man. I believe, yeah, if you're a fan of this guy, you will love it. But you know what I mean? For me, going in for the first time, I dug his music. I really dug his music, and I really got the relevance of why I came out here. I'm not gonna say this is one of Spike Lee's best joints, but this was actually something kind of unique and different in this over thus far. Like I would have never associated him with this band. I thought he would have, I don't know, have him do some Public Enemy, performance or something. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, stuff where you have performers talking about stuff that's relevant to Spike Lee and what he's been talking about for decades and decades, right? But here's this guy who is a legend, but he has his own weird, unique way of touching on the same stuff that we all thinking about, we all concerned about, we all worried about, right? And yeah, it works to that degree. So if you're a fan of concert films, if you're a fan of David Byrne, Talking Heads, yeah, give it a look, man. But just don't go in expecting Hamilton. It's not Hamilton,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And last thing, sorry, in terms of the gauntlet here, His House. This was a movie that I've been hearing nothing but praise about since it came out on Netflix, literally on Hallows Eve, right? And I wanted to check it out since it came out, but things just came up, right? And even up to the point where I was going to watch it, I was like, should I do? You know what I mean? Should I
Right.
still, if it is it all hype, and what I mean, it's kind of gonna be disappointing, you know but I'll answer that question a bit, right? So this is written and directed by Remy Weeks. I'm actually not familiar with this director at all, right? But it's actually a British film, right? It's well, okay. So the one person who I recognize in this, well, sorry, two people I recognize, right? But the one reason why I wanted to see this was the actress Wunmi Mosaku. The last time we saw her was in Lovecraft Country. She was Junie Smollett's older sister.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, okay, expanding her range and whatnot, And I would like, she's one of those people who's kind of forget that she's British. Well, actually Nigerian British, right?
Okay.
Also Matt Smith's in this.
Okay.
Yeah, did not know that as well, but yeah, he's in this as well, right? But alongside Wunmi, we have the actor Sope Dursu. If I got the name wrong, please forgive me, right? He is also a British actor, right? He starred in some films in the past, right? What is about it centers on this couple, right? Ball, who is played by, Sope, the guy, and
Yeah.
Rial, who is played by Wunmi, right? And they are from South Sudan, I mean, they're refugees. They hint at, this war between two tribes and whatnot. So, they're trying to escape. They make their way onto this boat with their daughter. Um, I get the name. Their daughter, Nyagak, that's her name. And in the process, she, falls over, what I mean, into the ocean now and drowns and dies, right? But fortunately, the couple makes their way to England themselves, right? And while at this detention center, they're called one morning and basically told that, okay, we found a place for you guys. You guys basically are out on bail, right? So don't think that everything is just going to be all sunshine and rainbows from this point on, right?
Right.
So we found this home for you guys. Is in this sort of apartment complex, kind of. Um, this is where you're gonna be. You can't have any friends or relatives. Well, sorry, not relatives. You can't have any friends there. You have to follow our rules, basically, right? So by the time they get there, the place is what they stress on is how big that place is relatively to the homes that other people live in, right?
Right.
Well, white you know Londoners live in, right? Because yeah, it's in London. It's wide, yes, but it's very, very, very rundown. You know what I mean? Just Um, everything just looks broken down. You know what I mean? Like the lights don't work properly. It just looks drab. It just looks really messed up, right? Like the person just like literally like a tornado just passed through it, right? But
Right.
hey, this is where they have to go, right? So Matt Smith, he's more or less an advisor. He drops him off there. He tells him the rules and all that kind of stuff, right? Sorry, well, not Matt Smith. Well, somebody else comes in for him, right? And while they're there, they more or less, trying to spruce up the place, make everything nice and whatnot. And yeah, just try to live their lives, right? Just start their lives anew. But unfortunately, though, well, the place just so happens to be quote unquote haunted, right? They're
Right.
seeing spirits of various Sudanese people, including their dead daughter as well. The wife makes mention of this witch. Well, I forgot the name of the witch character, but it's part of their folklore. Who shows up and it's really because of some blood debt, right? So
Okay.
the witch, sorry, accuses the husband of killing the daughter, right? So the idea is that he has to sacrifice his body just to pay that to atone that, right? And essentially it's just these two characters in his house losing their shit, seeing a bunch of weird stuff,
Right.
and more or less confronting their past and just learning something about themselves. So just to get this out of the way, I kind of love this movie.
Okay.
This hands
Yeah.
down
Nice
is
one.
one of the best horror movies. Sorry, is the best horror movie of 2020. I
Right.
know that's not really saying much given the output of horror films we got this year, but now this one really really got to me. But I was actually so shocked that it took me so long to get to this point. I'm so happy that I actually checked it out. Right. What makes it work though is, well, just to get the great out of the way. I thought that the direction for this was strong, but it was very very well handled. It borrows heavily from many American haunted house films. You know what I mean? One show in particular the show makes reference to, not heavy reference to, is The Shining, right? The idea
Right.
of this house, and it's both the internal and external forces that affecting the family, and you're not
Right.
sure what to believe, who to trust, and all that kind of stuff. And they play that very same thing here. You know what I mean? You'll see, being the daughter being this sort of evil spirit trying to kill, well, the parents. But when they explore the daughter's character and you understand what went on, it's like, oh, okay, that's what's going on, right? But really, true, it totally reference the dad himself. I couldn't help but see, well, Jack Torrance, right, aka Jack Nicholson's character from The
Yeah.
Shining, right, who comes in normal, and he sees all this weird stuff, but he believes that he needs to be here, like he needs to belong here. So there's this more or less this team running where he says, "This is my house. I'm not leaving." Even when he goes back to the same center and, well, he meets Matt Smith there, and he's telling him about all this weird stuff that's going on, right? And well, of course, Matt's watching like, okay, you go on crazy and whatnot. We don't understand, right? But still, he's still adamant about staying at this place because, I mean, what else is there for him? You know what I mean? Like, where expect him to go? You know what I mean? Given what he went through, so it makes sense. But the wife now is a lot smart. Well, I shouldn't say a lot smarter, but she picks up on things, and she's the one who brings up the whole witch thing, right? And she's like,
Right.
"Yeah, we got to get out, right?" So is that clash between staying and getting out, right? I thought that the camera work was very well done. The lighting, the cinematography was fantastic. And you got some genuinely chilling moments, so some genuinely great scares as well. But I wouldn't say that this is like your average, jump scare kind of show. It's not about the
Yeah.
visceral horror. It's more about the psychological and emotional, drama that's going on too. It also kind of reminds me of like the stuff like what Guillermo del Toro would do, like
Right.
perfect example, The Devil's Backbone. That's a perfect
Right. Right.
example where he's using this horrible moment in history, this war. But in this case here, it's once again this tribal war that's going on in Sudan, right? And the show itself doesn't stop to kind of tell you everything what's going on, but you get little glimpses of it, and you really see how bad it was, and how it really affect people, right? And uses that as the backdrop to basically see, oh, you think just moving away from this is gonna stop it? No, no, no. There's these demons, these ghosts of the past that's gonna come and follow you guys, even
Yeah,
though they're technically away from this war. And it reminded me a lot of like what Del Toro did with the Devil's Backbone, right? I thought that the acting was superb from top to bottom. I really dug Sope, who played the husband, Wunmi, who played the wife. Yeah, I'm gonna be looking out for wherever movie she stars in. She was great because she impressed me in Lovecraft Country. This was the first time I ever really
yeah,
saw her in that in anything, right? But yeah, she killed it here. Of course, they incorporate some Sudanese dialogue ever so often just to make it authentic. But yeah, the way how they spoke, I mean, just the mannerisms felt totally real to me. And you really saw how they felt like aliens in this new world. Sorry, in this new environment actually, and how it could feel, scary, right? Intimidating at times, right? They even hint at, well, okay, so it's not like overtly racism that racist
right,
people involved though, but you could tell that like even at the detention center, right, which yeah is run by white people, right? White people work
yeah,
there. They're like, okay, well, here's what we have, so hold this, right? Yeah, go here. Sure, it have no water, the lights bad, but you know what? It's better only go here than we have to waste our time and resources treat helping you guys out, right?
right.
So I know there's like a deeper social context there going on, right? But it gets even
It
sadder now when you have there's this one scene before I get to your thoughts, which eerily resembled the Shining, the Me scene, right? Where
right,
Shelley Duvall and the son were trying to find their way back, and it's essentially the wife trying to get to the street, right? Because she has to go by the doctor, and she's walking and she's seeing these kids, and the kids kind of teasing her because she looks weird, well, quote unquote. She even runs into like these three black teenagers, right? These black boys, and they are all mocking her because of how she talks. And you could
right,
kind of feel for her when it's like this, like one of them even say go back to Africa and all that kind of stuff. Is like like
right.
you really feel how she felt in that moment. So I love how the show touches on those things without drawing them out.
No, yeah, I was thinking of how they do in a lot of horror films, but in the context of some race or identity politics paradigm that
Yeah,
works for
yeah.
the most part. So like Assassination Nation was a feminist thing, but it had a big action dynamic to it. Did we
I
review
really wanted to enjoy that show, but
right? But
I don't
it's
know. I
still
felt
right,
tonally it was just all over the place. Right?
right. Then this movie, um, did we review Blood Quantum here?
No, we haven't.
Yeah, but Blood
We
Quantum is like
should,
another
because I
film I
haven't
was
heard it.
thinking of.
No, I haven't seen it, but I heard great things about it. But no,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
haven't
So
talked about
right, so something like that. Yeah, how to update a horror movie proper now, how to update horror films and horror paradigms. It could feel like this film or that film, but if you just put this twist it's actually work a lot in its own way and has a higher dimension to it. One of the reasons why Jordan Peele stuff works so well, right? Um,
it. Exactly, exactly.
yeah,
And yeah,
conceptually,
it's easy
yeah,
to watch a show and think about well, Get Out on Us, right?
right, right,
Slight spoiler, there's even a moment where the character says, "Get out, get out, get out." And I was like, "Aha, I see what y'all did there." Yeah,
yeah,
go on.
yeah, no, yeah, yeah. It's just people because a lot of people like to dump on horror film, the modern horror films. We go, oh, you're not being original or whatever. It is like, yeah, but it was never meant to be original. But it's more about catering to the themes and audiences and whatever, whatever, whatever. Right? It's
That's
that.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like what Del Toro does. He takes the familiar, but he uses that to explore things that you haven't seen before, may
Yeah,
feel real or familiar to you, but just never, you haven't seen it done in this way. So
yeah,
yeah, so you could tell that the director Remy is really drawing from the greats, I mean the great horror films, like The Shining. I also mentioned The Devil's Backbone. Yeah, we're just taking the medium of horror to really explore really profound themes now. Well, in this case, well, it's nothing new in the world of horror, but it makes for some great films, right? Memorable films. I mean? Just the horrors of the real world. I mean? Just what these characters have gone through, and just finding themselves in this new environment now and thinking, okay, well, we have to deal with these folks now, but at least it's not as bad as before. But now in your own home, in your own sanctuary, those same things that you try to avoid coming back at you, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And
Right.
yet it just totally worked though. It really made for some really genuinely genuinely emotional moments. So I think that's the reason why I love it so much. It's how emotionally driven it all is, right? You really do feel for the couple. You feel for the dad when he's losing his shit, right? You feel for the wife when she's trying to deal with what's going on too, and it gets even better now when they reveal, really what went on with the daughter too. And yeah, I'm not gonna spoil anything from this point though, but when that moment hit boy, I was like,
Yeah.
wow, okay.
Okay.
Because yeah, it's just really a matter of how far you're gonna go to survive though, but to whose detriment? That's all I'll say. But
Right.
yeah, boy, this show really surprised me here, but I did not expect this thing to be so good.
Yeah.
Right now, it has like 100% on Tomatoes. I was like, oh, okay, well, like normally when you see stuff like that, you take it okay. People just kind of ride in the train and give it praise, because it looked good or whatnot. But no, I mean the praise is well deserved though. I mean it doesn't just look good, but the story is very well told. The characters are compelling. It's emotionally driven, and most importantly, yeah, it have some genuinely chilling moments, man. Yeah, some really solid scares in this. So yeah, not much more I could say. This is hands down the best horror film I've seen this year, and I haven't seen a lot, nor do I need to. But yeah, this one came knock it out the park for me, and it's on Netflix, yeah, which is even more shocking. So I'll go high with this one, man. I'm gonna give this a light 4.5 out of 5, man. This is
Okay.
definitely one of the best shows I have seen all year. Really for me, this kind of shows that there is life in horror, right? Which I
Right.
mean, yeah, I mean, Jordan Peele and other directors, other new fresh faces or writers have, really kind of rejuvenated horror, right? You know what I mean? Like it's not gonna go anywhere soon, Trey, but I just love the fact that there are still horror films that don't just scare us or excite us, but can make us think, man. You know what I mean? Make us feel. And those to me, are the masterpieces. You know what I mean? Where you come out not just scared, but you feel something. You know what I mean? You feel something about what you saw there. So yeah, this is hands down one of the best films I've seen all year. Dude, this was a really crappy year, boy, but I'm glad that I'm glad that I took the risk to actually see this show, Dread. And yeah,
Right.
I can't recommend this film enough, Dread. You need to see this movie.
All right. Cool. Cool.